I still don't think in terms of LPs. It's 45's that are on my mind.
Whoa.
I've figured out that's the way I work. Like, I can manage thinking about this as opposed to thinking about an album as a grand statement.
I'm from California, I'm from California, I'm from California, and I don't mind.
Yeah, Ry Cooder has this really great quote about influences where he was like, you know, I was trying to be this, and then you mess it up enough and you end up yourself. So every record I make, I'm like, this is a miracle. And it's great to feel that way. I do feel optimistic that I still feel that way when a record comes out.
Hey Nick, how are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good, you know. It's release week, so I've been pretty busy doing remote press. Actually, traditionally, I suppose this is where I would be on the road, and then we'd be doing this in a studio or a cafe or something, but I'm making the best of what I've got.
You were smiling at me, hanging languidly on your car door window.
I listened to the album 5 or 6 times in a row, yesterday and the day before yesterday again, and it's a wonderful trip. It's a trip somewhere between Charles Bradley, Dick Dale, Alalas, even there is some Buddy Holly in it sometimes. I love it. It's a great variety that you have in your brains. Where is the construction of the songs? Is it always in the mind? Where is it?
Yes, a lot of it's in my mind, but then when I start playing and performing, there's like a total break. I get in this like trance almost. It's like my body's doing something different than what my mind is thinking, but I can hold those two at once. All my songs have my cadences, my rhythms, like my habits that are all unique. I never really studied one guitar player or one singer to emulate, so I find that sometimes I'm trying to do somebody else. I mean, Ry Cooder has this really great quote about influences where he was like, you know, I was trying to be this, and then you mess it up enough and you end up yourself.
Very blue when I catch you. Memory, that's me. Very blue, that's you in my mind too.
How long did you breed on Blue as a theme for the new album?
It's actually the opposite. It's that once all of it was being assembled, like there are layers to how I work, where I'm in the gestation and composition period where I'm sort of like on my own working with another writer or a co-conspirator or co-producer like Paul Butler. Then I start hatching like players that I would like to play this, rooms I want to record it in, production styles. Typically I'm already thinking of how it's going to sound as a record, like each song because I think, you know, I still don't think in terms of LPs. It's 45's that are on my mind.
Whoa.
So writing songs are like writing records, where it's like easier I've figured out that's the way I work. Like, I can manage thinking about this as opposed to thinking about an album as a grand statement. Then once I have the material together, I look for relations and threads in what I've given myself. It's almost like a tennis match between my right brain and my left brain, and it goes back and forth until it's become an album. And then I say, wow, well, it feels like it should go in this order, and this is the title based on all these other things it's telling me. And that was how I got to Promenade Blue.
So you work from a principle like, I need to create an A and a B side, which is a single?
Kind of. It's more like I think that way. Like, I don't even think of it as an outcome, but a good way for me to explain to like another human being outside my brain is when I think of a song, I'm not a pop songwriter who's trying to make a chord, melody, top line, and whatever to give to someone else. I'm not really like a craftsman. I'm also not a classic. I'm not writing T for two as a scribe at the piano. It's that I'm envisioning an entire record, like the same way that some guy, like if you're obsessed with Robert Johnson and you're a blues player, you've learned all the Robert Johnson licks and all the things. Yeah. Well, I've internalized this medium, this format, so much so that I think of songs like this, even if they don't exist yet. Like, how is it going to feel?
It's very comparable to the way Berry Gordy thought when he did Motown. Yeah. He was only thinking about singles, hits.
And this shows you how broad it can be, because his mentality in that world of thinking only about singles, he was so industrialized and about market testing and having votes and all this. So I'm almost more like a painter who's in my mind, I'm up in my loft, like adding day 400 of one thing. So like Barry is outward in the 45 thought, and everybody can have all these different means of doing this. It's a rich and varied way. It's not just like one way of thinking about making 45s, but I arrive at the same place I guess Berry Gordy did, which is like, this is ready to go, you know?
Well, you flew to New Orleans to rent a car and to see your friend, to put him in the hospital again.
I once visited the original studio in Detroit, and I always loved the sounds of the Undisputed Truth. But I never understood why Undisputed Truth was so not important within the group of people and hit makers within the building of Motown. That was for the simple reason that the Undisputed Truth were not able to create real hits. Quote unquote Berry Gordy.
Yeah, that's another interesting aspect, and a lot of the stuff I'm influenced by. And this is also why I don't think of myself as like a regressive or retro artist, because if you read or speak to surviving participants in the ecosystem of making records in the 1950s and 60s, that was the main concern with almost everyone. That was the rubric by which you, as the creator, and a lot of times the consumers, would orient themselves around approaching the work. Yeah. But almost all the records, I mean, the hits I love, but the stuff that really influences me are almost always stuff that if you meet the artist, if they're still alive, they go, why are you listening to that? I forgot all or they don't remember it because it wasn't a hit, or they don't care about it because it wasn't a hit, or they even dislike it because it wasn't a hit. Yeah. But the arc of history is kinder to that art, and now that art lives as its own, free from the Berry Gordys, the artists, the producers, the engineers that all thought they were duds or something, and somebody like me feels like it was a hit for me, or it just affects me. It's like a book or a painting after the novelist or the painter is dead.
Takes a lot of medicine to go this fast. Takes a lot of medicine to go this fast.
Well, all things come and all things pass.
Takes a lot of medicine to go this fast.
And you're living in Santa Ana, aren't you?
No, I'm living in Los Angeles. Okay. So I was born in Santa Ana.
And there's also a song about Santa Ana on the album.
Well, it's about California, really. The premise of that tune is really that I find regional identities in an incredibly dishonest time to be dishonest, and I thought I was trying to connect with what actually creates this profile of a true like West Coast life compared to say somewhere like Texas or New York, which I rub up against a lot of that world. But Santa Ana is sort of an unremarkable place that doesn't have a legendary status or really a brand identity. So I thought it would be amusing to use as, I mean, that's it. It's true. That's where I was born.
And what do you miss most about Santa Ana?
Oh, I can go there anytime. I was down that way on Sunday, so What I miss most, I guess, is the being a child and feeling like the endless possibilities of what the future might hold. Now I'm living that future.
I'm from California, I'm from California, I'm from California, and I don't mind. I'm from California, born in California, yeah. California, where we take our kinds.
Another album, another child of yours being born this week. Important for you.
It's pretty significant, you know, like every record feels more and more like a miracle for the reasons that I just described. My last LP, which is self-titled, that came out in 2019, we shot the cover on the street in front of the studio that was recorded. It's one of the oldest running commercial recording studios in the world, and it has this sort of torn up facade that's all gated up, and it looks like abandoned. And I chose that with intention, you know. It's like I feel like one of the last people to try to record in real studio. You know, this kind of feeling that's not, you know, the Foo Fighters booking out the big Hollywood studio for 7 months in a row. Well, that studio just closed down 3 months ago, and it's gone now forever. That was running for 92 years. So every record I make, I'm like, this is a miracle. And it's great to feel that way. I do feel optimistic that I still feel that way when a record comes out. And this is a big one for me too, because I felt like I really rediscovered how to sort of be fearless and take chances with this record. And it helped me re-engage with like arranging and being in the studio and working with all these people. And I did it before quarantine started, so it felt even more like the end of something. It makes me feel hopeful rather than sad when I listen to it.
I'm from California, and I don't mind. I'm from California, born in California, yes, in California, where we take our kinds.
Well, thank you very much for sharing the time with me.
It was my pleasure, and I was happy to be on the air with you.
Stay healthy, Nick.
Thank you.
Bye.
Adios.
I'm